Hello, welcome everybody to the Harrison Tinsley Show. Today, got a special guest, my good friend, Adam Vena, a father, a fierce fighter for parental rights, protecting kids. He's got a story you've got to hear. As one of the people I've grown closest to in this movement and whom I respect and admire very much. Adam, what's up, bro?
What's going on, brother? How are you, dude? I appreciate those kind words. I feel the same way about you. When I first heard your story, I was like, I got to get in contact with that guy. And it was kind of, everyone's like, absolutely, let's get you guys in touch. And it's been uphill ever since we've started hanging out and becoming good, close friends and brothers in this fight. So thanks for having me, dude.
Of course, man. It was crazy. I remember
Yeah.
meeting you the very first time at the Capitol. I was like kind of nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, that's Adam Vena, you know?
Shut
And
up.
now we talk all the time.
I know.
Honestly,
I
it's
know.
crazy.
Yeah. Well,
And I was just starting to
exactly.
do anything, to speak in
Yeah.
any way. So it was like,
Yeah. I think that was our first major kind of speaking engagement that you and I did was on at the Capitol for our duty and
yeah,
mom army and dad army and all that all that crazy stuff. And it's just kind of grown to something not huge, but it's definitely grown to something pretty incredible. And the fight continues for the kids and for parents
yeah,
and for fathers and anybody who's involved in these fights against kids.
yeah. I think it's growing like crazy, man. I just feel this momentum everywhere. Like everyone I meet, it's like, that stuff's insane. Why would they do that to kids? Or why are guys
Yeah,
and girls sports? Like, they're just, doesn't matter liberal or not. They're just like, that's totally crazy. We can't be doing that. And we're
yeah.
going to win this war on children for sure. This gender
I think
insanity,
I
it's going to end at
yeah
some point.
yeah I think we've got a good momentum going on right now. I know they had a kind of a little bit of a protest out in Simi Valley today. I guess that there was a CIF championship, and I guess there's a guy who is pretending to be a girl to get on with the track and field team, and he's playing against going up against girls, and if they allow him to do it and he wins the championship, almost kind of like a Riley Gaines ordeal out there. So I know they had a bunch of people show up today to kind of protest this guy in women's sports and spaces. So
Yeah, it's
it's
just wrong,
crazy.
man. It's so obviously cheating. Even Gavin Newsom admitted it. So I don't know how it's still happening at this
You might
point.
want to you might want to pause it real quick, Harrison. It's I don't know if it's me or you. Anyways, so you'll probably have to edit that out a little bit.
Yeah, I'm back, I think.
Okay.
Hopefully the
Okay.
internet's working.
Yeah. It's funny when we get on
Yeah,
these
but
conversations, all of a sudden the
we'll
internet
get
starts
some
to
more.
go.
Yeah, you wonder who's listening? Maybe Gavin Newsom.
Dude, it's yeah. I was talking to my mom today, and her and my dad were thinking about buying a new mattress. So I was mentioning names, and then I got back in my truck, went on my Instagram, and then all of a sudden my Instagram is filled with mattress stuff, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, dude, I don't want to buy a mattress, but I mean, everyone says that's not real, but dude, they were the phone
It's
definitely
real.
listened to me while I was talking about
Every time.
mattresses. Yeah. So that's the second time
Yeah,
that's happened to me. But anyways, let's get back to talking about
yeah, yeah.
how we all, got into this crazy fight. I guess
Well,
I
let's
mean, I think people really know, especially because you and I are on a show right now together. I think people really know like my story, um, and they know your story. One thing that I would like to talk about is child support. I posted a video today um, about I've never in the 4 years that I've been having to pay, not 4 years, but I've been since we've been separated. I've paid my child support. I've always paid it on time, um, and now all of a sudden they want to garnish my wages from my work. without missing a payment. And the reason why they're doing that is because I put in my memo for my Zelle payments, he's a boy, not a girl. Not knowing, Harrison, that she could read my notes. I'm thinking these notes are just for my personal eyes only. Anyway, so she saw that, so that's why they kicked me over to wage garnishment, right?
Wow.
So April, I get paid 3 times a month. And if anybody watches my video today, I get paid 3 times a month. She got the first payment and she got the second payment. The third payment was kind of like my fun money, right? 2 days later, I receive a letter in the mail saying that I have missed a payment on my child support. Don't know how. And so then they sent me a threatening letter. It says, you're behind on child support payment. Right then and there, I'm thinking to myself, how am I behind? I'm not behind. I've never been behind and I've never missed a payment. She's always got the payment. She either gets the payment on Wednesday or she gets the payment Thursday, right? So there's no 20-day gap, or 30-day gap when she gets it. She gets it within the time I get paid or the next day she's getting paid. And so now they're threatening, the wage garnishment. They're threatening me, telling me that I'm behind, but in the letter it says past due amount $0. So they're just throwing these scare tactics out to fathers. But I want to tell you something, and you're probably aware of this. They can, if you don't pay your child support, they can they can report you to the credit unions. I mean the credit people, right, and ruin your credit. Okay. Second thing they can do is they can suspend your license. I depend on my license. My job is my license. If I don't have my license, I can't work. You know what I'm saying? The third thing they can do, which is not a big deal to me, is your passport can get declined. Oh, well, I don't have a passport. But if a father is traveling overseas, for work, if a father is traveling overseas for work or anything like that, now his job is in jeopardy because he doesn't have a passport to go to work. The other thing that they can do is take your federal tax returns and pay it. So now I'm being threatened with all this crazy madness, and I've never missed a payment. You know what I'm saying? And I want to let fathers know too, and I'm telling you that fathers are not ATM machines. Fathers are not an ATM machine. It took two people to make that child, and you're not the ATM machine, and you're not just a sperm donor. Okay, you're more than that. You're more than a sperm donor, and you're more than an ATM machine. So like I said in my video today,
I strongly agree with that.
Yeah, I'm not,
because I felt like that exact thing, not seeing Sawyer for 15 months for no reason. So
right, and sometimes again, it's not, and I don't want to just focus in on the fathers or the men. Women do get screwed over in the family court system. I won't deny that. But to me, my personal opinion, it just seems that fathers are getting more screwed over than mothers. Whether it's for the gender affirming stuff or the mother. Yeah, the mother will trump up some false accusation against the father to get the child removed. And then now you're in the family court system, and now you're just in that revolving door. And most women can fire a pro bono attorney for free. Most fathers are the breadwinner of the family, and they're the ones that can't get the pro bono attorney, and they're going to have to pay out of pocket while the mother is, collecting the child support money and not having to worry about nothing because, she's got the pro bono attorney, So I just want fathers to know that we're a lot more than a damn ATM machine, and we should not be treated as such. We should not be treated less than. We should not be treated as just because I work or because I have a good job, you can milk me for every dime and every dollar I make. I work too hard for the job I have today. Like I said in my video this morning, I started cleaning homeless encampments. I didn't have a connection at my job. A lot of the job that I do have is who do you know and how far back your roots go with this particular job. And I didn't have any of that. I had to start cleaning homeless encampments. I had to come into work extra early to prove my worth, to prove my value. That way I can get a permanent position at the job that I have today. And they're they're pushing me to the to the brink of me wanting to quit. Because I don't want to continue paying. It's not that I don't want to pay the child support. I want my son to be taken care of, but I don't want my money to go towards the brainwashing that Aidan is going under with the therapist, with Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, with the attorney, the doctors, the whole thing. But I continue to pay. Also, Harrison, if I cut Aidan off of my health insurance, that also could potentially put me in jail because it's court ordered. So if I end up cutting Aidan off of my health insurance, they can come after me and throw me in jail for a court order violation. You know, so
It's insanity, dude.
it's insanity. The only thing I have right now is to sell everything I own that I worked my ass off for, quit my job, and pray to God something works out that I can afford to live on. You know?
Yeah, I mean, these family courts are so skewed towards the moms. It seems the data seems to back that up, and we also just look at the fact that how do we keep doing that when, as a society, we see all the numbers of people that are drug addicts, homelessness, people in prisons, people that commit suicide, etc. Vast majority of them come from a fatherless home, and yet we're pushing
Mm-hmm.
further and further down that path. In spite of that being the case, it's just sad. It's wrong.
Yeah. I mean,
Kids need their dads
we've
too.
got,
We're no Dads are
yeah,
no less than
we,
moms and love their kids no less.
right. Like I said, it took two people to make that child, and you should have equal everything when it comes to that child. Everything should be equal, 50-50 down the middle, not, 60-40, not 30-70, whatever you want to call it. It needs to be right down the middle, unless either the mother or the father has some horrendous thing that they've done in their life, then maybe the other parent should get some more custody. But majority of the cases that you and I have been dealing with, the father is not a dope head, like you said, not an alcoholic, not a drug addict, nothing like that. And they're just removing these fathers from the kids' lives. And it's absolutely horrible. I mean, I talked to a father in Phoenix. Yeah, he had a shady past. He ended up having to go to jail for 10 years. But do you think they stopped the child supports while he was in jail? No. He ended up getting out of jail 10 years later and owing $108,000 in back child support.
I mean, how could
Back
anyone pay
child
that?
support that
Especially,
he ended up owing.
yeah, it's not right, man. And the other thing is like you're saying,
No.
unless one of the parents did some great evil, maybe we could break from 50-50 custody. And I would argue that
Right.
this gender insanity that's getting pushed on kids, transing a child, I would say that that's should be classified as child abuse and a good reason to give the child to the other parent. Where we see in California, Colorado, etc., they're trying to actually do the opposite and have the government step in and say, if you don't affirm a fake delusion, wild abstract gender concept of your child, that they'll give them to the other parent, or the state,
Right.
CPS, whatever, will step in and take it from both safe parents.
Yeah, and that's the worst. That's the one thing about that Colorado bill that you mentioned. That Colorado bill will be weaponized against fathers. 100%, it'll be
Yeah.
weaponized against fathers, and two, they're gonna they're gonna take kids out of the loving home of two good parents just because they're not gender affirming. You know, and and we all know about CPS. CPS is not the greatest thing in the world, and I would never want a child unless they just needed to go into CPS or foster care system to have to go through that. It's better to keep them with the parents. In Colorado, Colorado, I thought California was bad, Harrison. Colorado stepped up and said, "Hold my beer. I'm going to pass another really bad bill." And that bill 312, it was like, you know, that was,
It was the worst bill I've ever seen.
Mardi
It's like
Gras on
all the bad
steroids,
ones,
dude.
and
What they passed in
yeah,
Colorado.
never seen anything like it. But I do think, in
No,
a
no. And
positive
again, it's going to
sense,
be
that that Colorado bill in a good way is shining a light on how insane this is and how hard some of these radical, legislators are pushing this stuff. I think it's waking a lot of people up because they're just like, wow, that's real. And they sit there and they watch some parent be like, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I just don't want guys and girls
Right.
sports, or I don't want my kids taken from me. And then the
Right.
legislator's like, you're a Nazi. So it's not going well for them being so radical, and we're going to win.
It's not, but they're still, and that's what I like about you, Harrison. You're always very positive when it comes to this stuff, and that's what I respect about you a lot.
Someone's got to be Mr. Brightside.
I know, I know, I know. I just don't think enough people are standing up. I don't think. I mean, you look at the opposing side, and they get 2,000-3,000 people to show up to events. Our side, we're barely mustering up 100 people, and if we can get more people
Yeah.
to show up to capitals, if we can get more people to call, if we can get more people to show up to, the Supreme Court when that bill comes up for Tennessee in June, I believe it is, and show the United States government or the state's government that, hey, these are our kids, not your kids, like Scott Wiener said. These are not Scott Wiener's kids. These are our kids, and we need to show a peaceful force of people to show up, and say enough is
Yeah.
enough. We're tired of you coming after our kids. We're tired of you pushing this ideology, this whatever you want to call it, on our children. It's my job as a parent to introduce these type of things to my kids. It's not the school's job to introduce these books or this sexual education stuff. It's my job as a father. It's my job as a parent to know when to introduce this type of stuff to my kid. But before then, I don't want my kid to go to school and learn about that. I want my kid to learn about reading, writing, arithmetic. I would love to see, them bring back, trades in high school. That way, if a kid like me hates reading and math and all that kind of stuff, I could go to a class in school and learn how to work on cars, how to weld, how to, wood shop. That way, when I get out of high school, I don't want to go to a college. I could go to a trade school and learn something that I was learning in high school and actually do something with my life. Sex ed is not something that I need to learn, especially at an elementary and sometimes kindergarten level stuff.
Yeah, it's totally insane, dude. And I totally agree that I'm actually seeing some people push back for like the trades coming back, metal shop, wood shop, auto mechanic shop.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that'll be
That's good.
super helpful for America. Yeah, because I think everyone
Yeah.
just like pushes this idea like you have to go to college. Like there's just no other option. And then half the people that go to college don't even graduate. Half the ones that do graduate get a job that's not even relevant to their degree. So it's ridiculous that we're just pipelining kids that
Right.
that's the only option. But more importantly, you said that more
And
people
then they
need
go
to speak up because they do. This is like
right.
80,
We
90%
need
of
more dads to
Americans
speak up.
agree. Yeah,
Right.
so many vast majority of Americans agree,
We,
but so many people don't have the courage to speak up. So how can they find that within themselves, or what can we do to help get people to speak up? I mean, the reality is just because it's not at your door yet, it's going to happen to your kids, your friends, your nieces, everyone at some point. It's even in the red states, nowhere is safe from this. And we have to speak up. Everything evil in history that's ever happened came from good people
no.
being quiet and doing nothing. And this is the moment in time where everybody at home has a chance to make a difference.
Yeah. And it
Just
only
saying what
took
they believe.
3% of the population to overthrow the world's. Yeah. I think if you're afraid to speak up, cover your face. Start a fake profile on Instagram or X or something like that. If you're that afraid of losing your job or something like that, start people have got fake accounts all the time. So if you're afraid of losing your job or somebody knows what you don't want people to know who you are, start a fake account and start speaking up about this. Put a mask on, block your face out, something, or disguise your voice, something. But you need more, more people to speak up. And the moms have done a phenomenal job. speaking up about a lot of this
They
stuff.
have.
You know, if it wasn't for the mothers, you know, I don't think half of this stuff would be out in the atmosphere as it is. And the mothers have done a phenomenal job, but I think it's time that the fathers start really. I think if more fathers start speaking up and doing a little verbal thumping, if that makes sense to you, I think more people will
Yeah.
start listening. You know, but again, the mothers have done
Well,
a
why
phenomenal
aren't the
job speaking
fathers
out
why aren't the
against this type
fathers
of stuff.
speaking up though? And how do we get more of them to do it?
I
Because like you and me will speak up, but
I
most dads just sit there and watch. Is it society has created weak
I
men?
think that
What's happening?
I think men in general have been beat down for a very, very long time. You know, fathers and men have it in their DNA to be hunters, gatherers, you know, warriors. And I think
Protectors.
that society, yeah, protectors. I think society has said no, that's wrong. You know what I'm saying? But it's in our DNA to be those things. And I think we men and fathers need to get back to those things that are built into our DNA, and really start speaking up and fighting for the kids. Like I was going to say, it only took 3% of the United States population to beat the world's largest military, and that was during our Revolutionary War. And if we
Right.
can get 3% of the population now to speak up peacefully and talk out against this, I think we could really, really turn some heads and change some minds.
I believe so too. Perhaps this is the great awakening, the great comeback of, strong masculine fathers. And we're going to wake up and people are going to start speaking up to protect kids, protect the society that we live in, American values and
Yeah,
ideals, and even protect women. I mean, they're violating women's spaces. We're letting literal, I'll just call them weirdos, into girls and women's spaces and sports. What kind of man just sits by
yeah.
and lets that happen, or lets kids be abused and medically mutilated? It's crazy times.
I mean, not even that, but just how we've gotten to that point as a society to say that it's okay to surgically remove healthy body parts. How have we gotten into a society that says it's okay to stunt a child's puberty at 12 years old when they're not even fully developed yet? How have we gotten to that point in a society when 26 states have banned it, four countries have completely come out and banned it, but yet the United States, the greatest country in the damn world, still sits by and allows it to happen? And again, it's not a Democrat or a Republican thing. It's an everybody thing. I mean, at this point, I'm still upset at the Republican Party. They say they're all about saving the kids and everything, but yet Trump signed that executive order, you know, 100 days ago, and no bill has been put on the forefront in front of the House to vote on it. We've got Marjorie Taylor Greene's the Protect Children's Innocence Act that she could put out on the House floor, get it voted on, go through Congress. We've got the House, and we've got the majority in the House, and we got the majority in Congress. We could get that bill on Trump's desk, President Trump's desk, and I know he would sign it. But you know, we don't have anything like that, going to the House floor, you know, and it's
Yeah,
absolutely
I would love
frustrating.
nothing more than to
Absolutely
see that.
frustrating to know that yeah. I mean, we've got Senator Marshall that I spoke with when I was in DC in December. He's got a bill that would criminalize doctors, therapists, teachers, and that push this type of stuff. And I haven't heard anything about it. I haven't heard the bill come to House. I haven't heard the bill come to Congress. And I sure in the hells haven't heard the bill come to Trump, President Trump, you know? So we rely on these people to speak for the American people, but yet we're not hearing that from our elected officials, you know? I mean, same thing in
And they
California.
need to
I'm
do
going to
it.
go, I'm
They
ranting now, but
promised
same thing in
us.
California. They do. They do. We've got Republicans in California that say they want to protect kids, but yet, even though we know it's going to not pass in California, they're still not pushing any bills. Just push a bill, write a bill, get it in there, and show the Californian parents that these people truly do not care about you, the parent, or your kids. But yet we don't see that at all. You know,
We don't see
we
that. I
don't
think
see
what we
any
need to
movement
do
on our
for
end.
California, yeah, I think in California we need to set up ballot initiatives, get it passed, work really hard, ground roots, ground game, get the
But
people to actually
yeah,
vote on it themselves so we can go around the legislator who are radical, leftists that don't care about protecting kids for the most part.
but
And
again,
as far as the
we
feds,
as a grassroots
Marjorie Taylor
organization,
Greene's bill, like that needs to happen.
yeah.
Sorry, I think my
But
internet's a little
again, we're
messed
going
up.
back to the grassroots. We don't, yeah, we don't have the funding as a grassroots organization. I mean, you look, President Trump signed that executive order banning gender surgeries on minors, right? Put a pause on everything. No federal
Yep.
funding to children's hospitals, right? ACLU came in there and completely destroyed it for us, right? Where was our side? Where was the person that was supposed to fight for us, we the people, when it comes to this stuff? And nothing happened. ACLU stepped in and dismantled the whole entire thing. We haven't heard a word. We haven't heard a word since about it. You know?
I'm hoping AG Pam Bondi will step in and start bringing some big lawsuits down on states that don't comply with it.
Yeah, but that's the same person that was supposed to bring out the Epstein files, and we're going on 100 plus days,
Yeah, that
and we
the people
haven't.
deserve to know
She
for
hasn't done
sure.
nothing.
James
So either these
James
people.
O'Keefe's
Go
been
ahead.
releasing some footage from James O'Keefe's been releasing some footage from Epstein's Island, which is pretty interesting. Bold strategy by him.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah, they need to release everything to the public. We want to know. We have a right to know. And people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace, I mean, true brave warriors that we actually have in Congress. I've spoke to them. I've met them. They need to push these bills. It might be
Yeah.
very hard to get the two-thirds majority, but just at least the effort and see if we can't pull off a
Yes,
miracle
Harrison.
because that's what we need right now. Our kids are being hurt right now as we speak all the
Yeah.
time.
Yep. Yep. Just show some type of effort instead of talking about it. I want to see action. I don't want to hear. I'm so tired of seeing lips move, and looking
Yep.
tough or typing on your computer or Xing or tweeting, whatever you want to call it nowadays. I'm so tired of seeing words on a
Yeah.
screen or voices. There's no action. And grassroots organizations cannot survive or cannot really make change if we don't have somebody either funding the grassroots organizations or somebody pushing bills to help protect us. You know, and I'm very disappointed in in California legislators, the little people that we do have there speaking for us. I'm very disappointed in that, and I'm disappointed in DC. Again, I'm
I mean,
tired
Bill
of hearing the
Saley
lip
tried,
service,
right?
dude. I want action. Yeah, but he didn't bring a bill up. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he ever. You can whatever it is
I
fact
thought he
checked on
brought
that,
one.
but I mean, oh really? I'll have to. I would have to. I would have to look into something like that. But he's no longer there. He's no longer there. He's in a different position now. I
Yeah,
think he's in a better position than he was at the Capitol, and we haven't heard anything.
for sure.
He talked a big game. But again, I've got skin in the game, so that's why I'm a little, you know, more negative towards these people.
Well, I think that one day, in the next 5 to 10 years, this will all be over, and there'll be a reckoning. We'll hold some of these parents, teachers, government officials, CPS, psychologists accountable, doctors that have done this great evil to children. Mutilated them, hurt them
Yeah,
emotionally, destroyed families. But I'd like to
yeah.
take everyone back for anyone who's not familiar, uh, and hear about your story a little bit, and not even just
Okay.
the dad stuff. I'd actually love you to tell us just where you came from, how you grew up, your family dynamic, a little bit about Adam
Yeah.
as a youngin, which most people don't know anything about, just so we get to know
Yeah.
who you actually are. Yeah.
Um, well, I'm 45 years old. I grew up in a Christian household. My dad was a pastor for a number of years. He made a career change. He became a drug and alcohol domestic violence counselor. But I grew up in a fairly normal home. Not well off by any means. Just a normal, blue collar family. My mom was a nurse. Then she started teaching nursing, so she was a teacher for a long time. But I grew up in a again fairly normal household, and I look back on that, and it was really nice to have both parents at home. But fast forward into my story, I got hooked up with this chick. Like you said, you thought you were in love. Thought I was in love, and we ended up having a we ended up having a kid together. And things did not work out. One of the things that I don't normally talk about, but before Aidan was born, I took on somebody else's responsibility. So I was basically a stepfather for a couple years, and we ended up finding out that he had autism and high on the spectrum autism, but still enough that it made the relationship very difficult. If a lot of people know about autism, autism is not the easiest thing to deal with. A lot of sleepless nights, a lot of tantrums. There was days where I had to sit there and watch this little boy struggle with his autism, but at the same time beat up on his mom. And it was not because he wanted to; it was because of the autism. Whatever was going on in his head, that's the way he lashed out. And there was nothing I could personally do to one, protect him or help him, and two, protect the person that I cared about. You know, so I would
I
go
think that
to therapy.
speaks so much to your character that you would take on that responsibility, and then the fact that you did that, and then and I don't mean to interject, but just the fact
No,
that you did that says so much about you as a person. And how could the mom, after you doing something so kind and loving, do what she does later? It just blows my mind. But please go
yeah,
on.
it was. I'll tell you right now, Harrison. It was very very challenging. And I think that I'm not blaming the autism, but that amount of stress really put a wedge in between her and I's relationship. We were both very high stressed. I always said in court directly to her that I wish I had the patience that you had with him because of the autism. I try not to speak too highly of my son's mother, but in that aspect, the patience that she showed towards him, the autistic child, was absolutely amazing. I wish I had that. I think things would possibly have been different, if that. But but nevertheless, it didn't work out that way. So it definitely drove high stress. We started fighting a lot. But anytime that me and her ever got into a fight, there would be verbal confrontations, yelling at each other, bad names. But I always left the house. Once I realized that the situation was not de-escalating, it was just continuing slowly but surely escalating, I decided to say, you know what, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to leave the situation, get in my truck, and I'm going to go away, spend the night somewhere, and then I'll come back in the morning. And hopefully things will be de-escalated. Most of the time, about 75% of the time, by me leaving, it always made things worse with her. She was always afraid that I was never coming back. So Aidan was born, and when Aidan was 2 is when I first found out that his mother had started putting him in girls' clothes. And I strongly spoke out against it. I had thought it had stopped, and on Aidan's 3rd birthday, we were potty training Aidan at the time. Aidan said, "Hey, Daddy, I got to go to the bathroom." I said, "Perfect, buddy. You want to go by yourself, or do you want some help?" He said, "No, I want to go by myself." I said, "Awesome. Let me know if you need help." So he goes in there. He does his thing. He comes back out and says, "I need help washing my hands." So we washed his hands, and as we're walking out of the restroom, he says, Daddy, Mommy bought me a pink dress. And the way I'm going to tell you and the way I tell everybody is got down on one knee. I looked the little boy in the eye. I said, hey, buddy, you're a boy, not a girl, and boys don't wear dresses. And he said, okay, Daddy. And we went back to cake and ice cream. A couple of days later, I was hot, I was fuming, and I sent out 46 consecutive text messages. And none of those text messages were there threats of violence. No threats of I'm coming to kidnap him. No threats I'm coming to beat you up. No threats to beat him up for this. It was basically bad word. He's a boy, not a girl. Stop dressing him in girls' clothes. And she was able to get a temporary restraining order put on me. And I was on a temporary restraining order for 2.5 years.
What was the grounds? What was the grounds?
Harassment.
I don't understand.
Harassment.
With no threats. Okay, harassment.
Okay. And mind you, Harrison, let me again, one of the other things that I don't talk about on a regular basis is that I experienced physical abuse from her in our relationship. I had been punched in the eye. I was drug off a bed. I was locked in a room. I was locked in a closet. She would not let me leave. And I was so fearful to try to not physically get out, but I was afraid that if I tried to do something that she was going to get me for some type of domestic violence. So I sat there and took it, never said anything about it. I rarely talk about it, but at one point she hit me in the back of the head and I ended up calling the police. I didn't leave the house because I was fear that they were going to make up some story about me. So I stayed there. Long story short, they never pressed charges against her. They arrested her, but released her right away. And no charges, no anger management, no domestic violence classes, no charges of any sort against her, even though there was physical evidence that she had punched me in the back of the head. And on my end, I said in a FaceTime conversation that I didn't want my son in rainbow shoes, and I got arrested for a restraining order violation. I had to do 26 weeks of anger management, 26 weeks of child abuse classes. Because
and how is that a
mother
violation?
On a FaceTime conversation that I didn't want him, because I wasn't allowed to speak to her. I was only allowed to speak to Aidan in the FaceTime conversation.
Oh, in the FaceTime. Okay.
Yeah. So the court ordered 2 FaceTime conversations a week. I had to sit there like I'm talking to you right now, see my son in earrings, talk about dresses, nail polish on, and me being a father, I was not allowed to correct that. If I did correct it, it'd be a restraining order violation and I could possibly go to jail for the restraining order violation. But I said something about the rainbow shoes. That was a clear violation, and I ended up being arrested for the violation because I spoke to her through the FaceTime conversations.
How do you stay strong doing the FaceTime like that with Aidan? It's just, that sounds like something so harrowing for a dad to have to do with his son.
I wanted to see my son. So I was doing everything I possibly could to have some type of connection with my son, but I wasn't allowed to be a father on those conversations. What 3-year-old or what 4-year-old wants to sit on the phone and talk to his dad when he could be outside playing or doing something? I had no connection with my kid on any of those FaceTime conversations. I'm still sitting on Christmas gifts from 5 years ago. I still got Christmas gifts from 5 years ago. I'm going to start getting mad but
sorry.
So so I'm sitting on Christmas gifts from 4 years ago. They would never allow me to see my son. And it all has to do with because I'm not gender affirming. Harrison, I wanted to go to the gender assessment that the judge ordered at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, and they denied me that. And I know you know my story. They denied me a conversation with the doctor at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, and they also denied, I had hired a therapist to sit in on the assessment, and they denied me that. So up until this point, I have never spoken to Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. The Dr. Jonathan Juarez at Children's Hospital has never
Sounds
called the
like
father.
your parental rights are completely being violated to me. And I'm curious the
Oh
amount
yeah,
of time it's been since you've seen or talked to Aidan precisely now, because I know it's been a long time.
it's been a long time. It's been almost 2.5 years, maybe. Since I spoke to him. Some of the decisions that I've made have not always been the right decisions. But at Harrison, I couldn't sit there and talk to my son when he was dressed as a girl. And you've seen the LA Times article. I couldn't sit if I talk to my son now with long hair and sitting in a dress, I couldn't do it. You know? So I had to cut the conversations off
Yeah.
with my son. I tried to get visitations with my son. We went 7 months in talking about visitations, only to get an email saying sorry, but we dropped the ball on visitations. You know, I was trying to figure out with minors council, do I need to call? Do I need to set it up? How much does it cost? They were asking me all the right questions, right? But they never followed through with it. And I got the email saying sorry, Adam, but we dropped the ball on visitations. And that was all three attorneys, opposing, minors, and my attorney at the time. So they were never going to give me my kid back. And I was going to I was going to try to affirm, right, the delusion that they were putting in my son's head just to be able to have physical contact and physical custody of my son. And even though I agreed to that, they still never agreed on visitations with Aidan. So, and then finally,
It sounds like a violation of any right you have as a parent. It makes no sense. It's so wrong, so messed
Yeah.
up. And I just,
Yeah.
how is there not?
so
How
it'll
is
be a
there
total
not
of
legal
8 year.
means?
It'll be a total of an 8 year restraining order on me. 2028 is when I go back to court. And at that time, it will be a total of an 8 year restraining order. And I'm not the only one that has been affected by this. His grandparents have been criminalized on this. The grandparents haven't seen Aidan in 4 years, going on 5 years, because they heard my father say he's a boy, not a girl. And they used that against the grandparents not to give custody to the kid. Even though it's court ordered that they have visitations, they have violated a court order giving visitations to the kids, to the grandparents.
Wow. And what will
Yeah.
you do once this restraining order's up?
Oh, I have no idea, dude. My son's so screwed, dude. It's not even funny, bro. So he's so brainwashed right now. It's not even funny.
He is, but
So
you look at the rates of detransitioners. There's no reason not to believe that after the restraining order's up, you get some custody back.
Well,
you start talking to him, and we freaking
Right.
save Aiden.
Right.
Plus,
Right.
maybe by then
But
there'll
his-
be some different laws, and we can get you full custody.
Right. But that little boy's head's been so brainwashed for the last 4 years. All he knows is that he's a girl. That's
Yeah.
all he knows. And
Don't
so
you think deep down he might know that's BS though?
I think why
He's
I know
part you.
Right.
He's part
It's so-
Adam. He's pardon my language.
Right.
Sorry, but yeah, it's just
No.
there's no way. There's not something inside him that you have that tells him that's not right.
Right. So I don't want to give away too much information. But
Yeah.
fuck it, I don't care, dude. A follower of mine on Instagram turned me on to a Reddit page. I'm gonna show you a picture that he drew, right? And at first I looked at it. Let's see if you can see it. Can you see it?
I see it. Yeah. Could you explain
that's-
who's who, or do we know
Yeah.
what that
So
is?
Aidan is right here, and then that's his mom. If you look closely,
Okay.
Aidan painted a trans flag on the mother. But let me tell you,
Right.
with that little green thing right there, you know what that is? That's a fart. Okay? He drew a fart. How many boys do you know that love farts? I still
Most
think
all.
farts are funny. I'm 45 years old and I still
Yeah.
think farts are funny. Anytime I see a video on Facebook about farts, dude, I'll watch it 3 or 4 times because I'm laughing. I'm 45. I think farts are freaking funny, dude. That little boy loves farts. And that right there tells me that he's a boy because he loves farts. Yes, girls can love farts too, but boys love the fart sound. I'm
Yeah.
laughing just thinking about it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
that
no
picture
doubt.
right there is quite disturbing to look at. How he knows how to draw the trans flag so perfectly. I mean, that trans flag or that pride flag is absolutely perfect. It's got the colors. It's got everything correct. You can't tell me that that little boy wasn't coerced on how to draw that that flag. And you could also see how bad he's been brainwashed, where he doesn't even think he's a boy anymore. He draws himself as a girl.
Right.
So,
But
but again,
but that doesn't mean,
yes, he could.
if depending on the level of medicalization, but that when you get him back, when you finally get some custody back, and you can't get him out of this. I think you can. I think he knows, yet you love
Yeah,
him. I think he's going to see all this
I
stuff online at some point, and
right.
he'll probably grow up to be a great man one day. He's just going to have to go through a really hard time growing up, unfortunately. But
Yeah,
some of the
there's
greatest
gonna be
people
a.
ever have gone through really hard childhoods and then become great men,
Yep.
great women. And I don't see any reason why Aidan, regardless of how much pain and suffering he goes through, as shitty as that is, as his dad, I'm sure, can't come out the other side on top, especially with your love and guidance.
Yeah, yeah, but it's that I think again I appreciate the positivity. I think you know how much more damage do I want to occur? Right now, I can sit back and know that I didn't do any damage to him. You know what I'm saying? Like I know I barely sleep at night, but I know when I do sleep that I haven't done anything to harm my son. You know, and I don't want to harm my kid. I don't. You know, I don't want to harm my kid. Any more than he has already been harmed. So it'll be I got what 3 more years. Yeah, or 25. I got 2.5 more years. But I got a feeling that we go to court on 2028, and they're going to hit me with an additional restraining order for another 5 years. You know, and by that time, if we haven't passed a law banning surgeries and medications, that's definitely going to be the next step for that boy. And at that point, I've completely lost him. And that's why I wanted to talk about the child support stuff first. The child support stuff was my last grasp, Harrison, of being a father, and they
Right.
have completely taken that away from me now. And that's why I said in my video this morning, like, now it's your responsibility. You've got my social, you've got my address, you've got my bank account numbers, you've got my checking account, you've got everything. So I don't want any more threatening letters coming to my house saying that she didn't get her child support, when now it's on the state to make sure that she gets her child support. The money's always going to be in that account. As long as I keep working, the money's going to be there. So there's no excuse for her not to get her money. Now I wash my hands of paying the child support. I wash my hands of making sure that she's getting both payments. And now it's on you. You guys drew the line to how far that you want to take this. She was getting her payments on time every single day. Now, I don't know. Now she's going to get less because you think child support's free? Do you think they're going to give her the full amount? No. They're going to take money because they've got to make money on the back end of the deal. So she's going to be getting less of the money. She's going to have to wait an additional 5 days. They got to take it out of my account, and then they're going to wait 5 days to have to transfer it over to her account. It's not going to be an overnight deal. It's going to be a 10-day wait period when it comes to this. So she has screwed herself in the long run. And I won't, again, folks, I will not double check that child support. I will not. You guys had a month to take that money. You had a month to figure out how to get that money out of my account. It's not that I work for a government agency. I'm a government employee. So it's going to be it's going to be very easy for you to garnish those wages. So there's no excuse why these people can't get her money on time. And it's not my responsibility. So I don't want any more threatening letters coming back to my house. I've got all the bank statements sitting right here, dude. Everything in yellow is child support payments. The red is attorney's fees that I paid. So like I said in the video, child support can kick rocks, and same with the attorney. She can kick rocks. She drove it to this line, and now it's your responsibility now it's your responsibility. I have no more responsibility. My only responsibility is to continue to work Monday through Friday and maybe Saturday if it comes to it, you know. And I'll just work myself to death.
Well, I hope that you're working for more of a purpose than that. I still think in 2.5 years things are going to be a little different legally, and you're going to get Aidan, and we're going to do something, come up with some way to, guide him,
Right.
because
Yep.
we got to save Aidan. He's a boy. No matter what that your ex-girlfriend doesn't change the
Right.
fact that he's a boy.
That's
No
right.
matter what she
That's
does, no matter how much harm, he's literally still your son. So,
Yep.
it's terrible, and the child support thing's unfair. And it seems like she's just doing it to go after you, probably. I mean, you mentioned
Yeah.
that Reddit
Oh, yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I remember them trying to paint you in a bad light.
Oh yeah. Same with the LA Times. Same with the LA Times. They painted me in a bad light. I wish I had legal action against them, but I don't. And
Well,
even
but
if I
what about
did,
all
I
the people
wouldn't have.
that paint you in the good light? That you've been in
Oh, that's.
identity crisis.
Oh, I
You've been
love
on
it.
all these podcasts and all these. There's plenty of Americans who believe in you and support
Oh,
you. And
I've got
want
more.
to save Aiden.
I've got more.
Help.
Yeah, I've got more support than I do have. I guess if you want to call them haters. You know, but again, I'm not. You and you and I aren't in this for the fame. That you and I aren't in this for the glory of anything like this. You were in it to save your son, and you saved your son. You got 100% custody of your boy.
It's just lucky,
which
though.
whether it's
From
luck or
God.
not, Harrison, you still got that boy, and he's not going to be
Yeah.
abused or traumatized anymore by his mother to make him think that he's something else other than what he was born as. And that's
I mean,
that's all. that
Sawyer
matters.
must be destined for some great things in this world because,
Yeah.
I talked to you and Jeff, Ryan, all these dads that we know, a couple moms, so many dads just go and I hear from new ones every week asking for my
Yeah.
advice. And it's just, I just sit there and wonder sometimes, like, why me, God? Like, obviously,
Yeah.
everyone loves their son.
Right.
So it's just, I'm so grateful and I appreciate your support. I just feel bad, man.
Oh
I
no,
hope me
don't
and
feel bad,
Sawyer
Harrison.
just, inspire people and that Sawyer does great things and we keep up this fight because it's just not right.
Yeah,
I know
it's
your
not
pain.
right. So what? So now that you've had Sawyer back for what, 6 months now, 6-7 months? Have you had him full
No, it's
time?
been like a year now. A year.
Has it been a year? Holy crap, dude! It's been.
Yeah.
Wow,
Isn't
that's
that crazy?
amazing. Yeah, I didn't even think. I didn't think. Man, time flies. So has there been any major adjustments for you, or what has been like pretty much the highlight of having Sawyer back now for a year?
I mean, he just seems to be thriving so much.
Good.
We just spend so much time together, and there's so much love, so much fun. Seeing him start to grow and start to play sports, and he confidently knows he's a boy. He's a little savage,
Right.
and it's just really awesome to see. And
Yeah.
he knows
We should
he's
have done
with his
some
dad
reality.
for a reason.
We should have done like a reality TV show for you. Filming
Yeah.
your day in day out with having your kid, full time.
Yeah, the
Snowboarding,
Sawyer
whatever
and
you guys
Dad
fishing, snowboarding.
show. Yep.
Yeah, that would be. Had that theme song, "Best Friends," like on Robin Big.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, it's
I would love that.
yeah, that was a good show. But anyways,
Give the people
but yeah,
what they
I mean,
want. And
that's
give
right.
it to us, MTV.
That's right. And I think
Or,
oh, not MTV. You can go like the We the People.
I don't know who.
Studio. I think Patriot Barbie has her own streaming service now. It could be the Harrison and Sawyer show reality. And just have cameras following you guys
Yeah.
around everywhere, going to hockey games.
Yeah.
That's pretty rad, dude. I was super stoked when the news came out. I think the news came out before you even called to tell me.
I think someone posted it when I told them, and I was like, "Oh, I guess it's coming out," because I was
Yeah.
trying to wait for the court order to be signed.
Right.
But
right.
yeah.
Because they could have taken that away real quick.
Yeah.
Quick.
But thankfully, we
Yeah.
had enough that there was just no other option.
Oh,
But that's what's
absolutely,
sad
man.
though, because the reality is this gender stuff being pushed on kids is just as bad as
Yeah.
negligence and violence and drug abuse, in my
Yeah.
opinion, for a child's development and safe, loving environment. So it shouldn't just take these other things.
No, no. And just because there's no physical abuse that is happening to these kids, it's still abuse. Um, and it needs to be seen in the court's eyes and in the law's eyes that just because there's no, we're not, these parents aren't locking their kids in cages or burning them with cigarettes or not feeding them or and not beating them. This is still physical abuse that's happening to them. Emotional abuse, telling them that there's something that they're not, and that is still a form of physical abuse, you know, and it needs to be seen that way,
Yeah,
you know, it really does,
and it
but
will. It's just gonna take some time, and we'll see how many kids are harmed in the process
oh,
before we finally figure
there's
that out.
thousands of kids that are being harmed, thousands of girls that are, and another thing, just because you look at the boys and girls spaces stuff, that's abuse to the kid that's having to see that. So that's emotional abuse, especially if you come from a traditional family, right? And the girls have been taught that boys don't belong in the girls' restroom or boys don't play on girls' sports. They've got their separate sports. So now these poor girls are coming into their supposed safe space. I don't like that word, but their supposed safe space or their supposed whatever. And now they're seeing this mentally ill boy invading their personal boundaries or their personal spaces, and they're thinking to themselves, "Well, mom and dad sat here and told me that boys are boys and girls are girls. Boys have their own sports, they have their own spaces, and girls have their own spaces and their own sports. Now, why is this boy invading my personal area and being able to see me change, being able to see me have to compete against me?" And that's abuse too. That's a form of child abuse, in my opinion. You know,
Or sexual abuse or something. Yeah, it's definitely not right and needs to be banned. Most
right?
Americans agree. There actually
It's only
seems to be even more momentum for that one. But I'm just
yeah.
wondering, you're a little bit older than me, but even when I grew up, there's no way that would have happened ever. So I'm curious how you think we got to
No,
this place and what it would have been like when you were in high school or middle school if some guy tried to do that.
we would have made fun of him. You know what I'm saying? It would have been an all out. I mean, dude, I come from I guess the generation. I can't believe I'm saying that, but where we picked on everybody got picked on. You know what I'm saying? Everyone got bullied in school. I was bullied. I turned out just fine. We made fun of everybody got made fun of, but it just built character. It built, especially with guys, it built
Well, you
character.
learn
It
you learn to stand up to bullies, and then also guys. Part of guys hanging out, right? If we're hanging with the boys, so to speak, like part of what we do just for fun is just make fun of each other. That's part
right.
of being a guy, like
Oh
literally.
yeah. Yeah.
So
My buddy calls me on the phone every day, and the first thing out of his mouth is a, a word to make fun of me. That's just that's just how we are. I don't call
yeah,
him by his first name. He doesn't call me by my first name. It's always an insult. That's the word I'm looking for. Or I'm always insulting. Vice versa. My friends are always insulting me on whatever. I say all the time in my videos. So my buddy changed my name on his cell phone to Adam. So anytime I call it, it says Adam on there because I said all the time. And every time he says that, dude, I laugh my ass off. I think it's so funny. And then I get nervous when I make a video. Got to make sure I don't say I'm gonna get made fun of. I'm gonna get a text message. So we I guess if you want to say it, guys just bust each other's balls all the time. It toughens you up. It teaches you how to stand up for yourself. Whether that's throwing a jab back at them or physically throwing a jab back. And you know I'm not saying bullying is okay, but at the same time, it does sometimes build tough boys, you know. So
yeah, and and we need we need tough boys. We need strong men, masculine men. That's what we're lacking in society, clearly. and
Yeah.
this
I
guys
think
trying to
men,
that are trying to get first in women's sports because they're 200th, they're 500th in boys is a clear example of
yeah.
bullying, in my opinion.
Hey, dude, I was terrible at sports. Terrible. I loved playing baseball. I loved playing all the sports, but I was terrible. I was not good at sports. But I did not think about, oh, maybe I should go over on the other side to play. I just knew. I was like, well, you know what? I was not cut out to be a professional baseball player. I was not cut out to be a professional sports figure. I was just not good at it. But I found, like golf. I wish I was a professional golfer, but I know that's not going to happen. You know, like I know it's just it's just not going to happen. But I found other avenues, and that's what needs these kids need to show is that you're going to have to take another avenue. This is not the right avenue to go at to compete with girls. And I feel bad for the girls that are having to be put in these positions to sit there and play a sport that they love and then lose to a guy that thinks he's a girl. I mean, I couldn't imagine like what was going through like Riley Gaines' head when she's the number one swimmer in the world and then ends up losing, to a person that should never have been there in the first place. And then to be told all those things, the trophy ceremony, all that kind of stuff, and then just be outright blatantly lied to by the powers to be, I mean,
Yeah. Well, Riley's an incredible person, and I'm glad that moment, God or something sparked inside her to start speaking up because that was
right.
Riley's just so powerful with her message and her courage, and
Yep.
that's exactly the kind of thing we need right now is more Riley
Right.
games. It's everywhere,
Oh,
every
absolutely.
single time it
Absolutely.
happens.
Oh, we need a lot more Riley Gaines. But we
Yeah.
need more. We need Riley Gaines on the male side too. We need we need the males to stand up and protect the Riley Gaines and let them know like, hey, we've got your back if you want to speak out against this, you know. And we just need more strong people like Riley Gaines to stand up and speak out against this type of stuff. But also have the male athletes also stand behind these female, athletes and say we don't agree with this at all, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's so wrong. It's gonna come to an end, and I hope that we can really hold people that played along or supported it accountable because it's evil, it's
It really
wrong.
is. It really is.
Everyone knows it.
Yeah, but we're still allowing it to happen. We're still saying that it's
Yeah,
okay. We're still, again, parents don't have the protection of the government. The the and the government does not care at all about parents. They don't care about girls, and they
yeah,
don't care about boys. So either they're in on the take, somehow, or they've got something going on where they're not standing up hard enough. And the parents
what do
are
you think it is, Adam, that is driving these people in positions of power or at the top, perhaps, these people that are really pushing this whole gender insanity? Why do you think they are doing this? Do you have any hypothesis?
I the only thing I can think of is either they talk a big game, but they're scared to actually go out and take action on it. Again, I'm going back to what I was saying. We see a lot of this going on, right? We see a lot of typing, a lot of keyboard warriors out there in the political spectrum, right? But we don't see any action. Why are we not seeing the action? I don't care about the words. I don't care about the tweets. I don't care about the Instagram posts from these politicians talking out against this. I guess put your money where your mouth is. And I don't know why they're not doing it. Either they're getting pressured from some other people not to do it, whether they're in on a take, they're making money, but I truly don't see that in like the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the what's her Nancy Mace. I don't see that, but I still ask myself, why haven't you bring out the bill and at least get a vote on it, you know? And I just can't understand why, you know, why we're not seeing any action, physical action
People need to
done.
be brave. The time to be
Well,
brave's now. Time to speak out is
absolutely.
now. The time to pass a
Well,
bill.
speaking
Do
out is not
anything.
even brave anymore. We need some type of physical action to be done. We've
Yeah.
spoken out. We've spoken out enough. We've called out sick for work. We've spent our own money to speak
Yep.
out. Some
We've
people have
flying
lost
all around the
jobs.
country.
Yeah, some people have lost jobs. Some people have had death threats put on them. Some people for speaking out, but we still haven't. There's enough momentum on our side now that we could actually get some stuff done. But yet we're still in the same boat we were 4 years ago, 5 years ago. You know, we're still in the
Yep.
same boat, and I just don't understand it. I just don't understand why there's not enough or more physical action taking place.
Well, hopefully there's gonna be. Hopefully we're part of it, and
Yeah,
everyone at home can start being brave and having the courage to speak what they believe, so that politicians feel empowered to actually take action. I want to ask you
yeah.
about our state, California,
Uh,
and if you feel any sort of momentum towards California going sort of purple or red, or they're saying make California
well,
gold again. What do you think about California and us saving it in some way?
well, I think we can save it because the momentum is on our side. If you look at last year's voting map, 75 to 85% went red for Trump, right? So that's huge. But you look at the voting map and where they make the decisions is San Francisco, Sacramento, San Diego, and LA. And because those are the most densely populated areas in California. So they make all the decisions. They make all the decisions. And we've got people that are going to be running for governor. And what are they going to do? They're going to go to the red parts of California, right? This is one of my biggest frustrations with politicians that are running, say, for governor. They go to the areas that have already supporting them. Why are you going there? That area, you can go there for one day, but you need to set your money and your eyes towards the blue areas. Sacramento, San Francisco, LA, San Diego. And those are the areas that you need to switch. The rest of the state is already going to vote for you. But I mean, we got Larry Elder. Larry Elder went all to all the rural areas. Not one time did I see him in South LA. Not one time did I ever see him in San Francisco. Not one time did I ever see him in San Diego. And I truly believe Larry Elder could have won if he would have flipped those densely populated areas of California. But the guys that are running for governor now,
And I
I
can
don't
tell
see.
you, living in one, they got to do exactly what you're saying, and
I
hopefully
know
someone well. Is there anyone
you.
running that you think's a legit candidate that could win?
Nope, nope, nobody. I really don't. I really they
What about
again.
Sheriff Bianco? Remember we met him the other day. He seemed pretty cool.
I like the sheriff. But again, I don't see enough physical action coming from him. You know what I'm saying? I don't see him talking enough about the gender stuff. I don't see him coming out enough and talking about what is really going on in California. And that was one of my frustrations with Trump when he went to Coachella. I went to the Coachella rally and he was talking how he talks all over the nation, right? But California is different. You can go to Georgia or you can go to a red state, a deep red state, and you can talk about these things. But he came to California and he could have touched on the stuff that is really affecting Californians, gas prices, the children, what they're pushing in schools, the gender stuff. And he didn't mention it one time. You're in the state of California. You need to talk about what is directly affecting that specific state. Talk about the border wall, talk about no tax on tips, talk about gas prices and everything. But you need to physically focus yourself and talk about the stuff that is directly affecting that state. And I didn't hear that from Trump, nor do I hear that from any of the candidates that are running, for governor. We need somebody that can again, I like to use the word physical. We need more physical action than lip service, if that makes sense to you. You know, it's
Right.
I need something. I need you to
It
go. I
does.
need you to hold a rally in downtown LA. You know what I'm saying? Whether you get booed off stage, whether you get protests on you, you need to go there. You need to go to San Francisco. You need to go to San Diego because these are the areas that flip the state. These are the areas that make the decisions for everybody. You look at Virginia, I don't know, 6 years ago. For 90% of Virginia is red, right? This Democratic governor came in there. He swayed Richmond, Virginia, which is the most densely populated, and it went from a red state to a blue state. The governor, and that governor was absolutely horrendous for the state of Virginia.
Yeah.
But one little section flipped that whole state from red to blue. Because why? He focused on Richmond, the most densely populated part of that state. And we've got 4 densely populated of this state, and that's where these guys need to go, you know, and start getting more loud about don't be
Yeah.
scared, you know, don't be scared. If I had $1 billion, because I think that's what
Right.
the governor race is going to cost, especially if Kamala comes in here, especially if, you know, we've got so much to worry about. We got Newsom going to possibly run in 2028, you know, but California, we've got Kamala that could possibly run next year, and she's going to win with a landslide because she's got those 4 sections of the state. And these guys that are running for governor, I don't see nothing, man, coming from them.
Yeah. Hopefully we should try to get to some of the people around them to see if we can't get some rallies. You know, you're in LA, I'm in San Jose. If we could get rallies here, I'd be happy to help out because you're exactly right. And it does seem that people, when they do speak the truth about these big topics like the gender one, like I was at Amfest with you, and when Trump brought up that, well, we will not let boys and girls sports, and we will not let kids be mutilated, loudest cheers of the night. Everyone's saying that that's why he won all the swing states. Yeah. Why are we not pushing into that then when that's something Americans care so much about? And yeah, of course,
and I think
you need to go to the cities where the people are.
Yeah, and I think California really went red. I think California truly voted for Trump. But again, this is my personal opinion. I don't think the powers to be allowed that to happen. You know, so I think California really did go for Trump, but you know, we didn't allow it to happen. You know, so
we definitely need to try to put in some better voting regulation laws and stuff. I would agree with that.
We need voter ID.
Seem...
Yeah, you know, if I got
that's an example. ID... Another example. That's something most people think is rational and should be the case, even in California.
Yeah, but we don't think in California, we don't think with common sense or facts. Like in my case, they never looked at the facts or the evidence in the case. Because if you would have looked at the facts and the evidence in my case, you would have seen that this father's not abusive. This father's not a deadbeat. This father's no bad things. But we're basing everything off of feelings and emotions. And I think our country in a whole is only going off of feelings and emotions. You know, we're too afraid as a state or as a country to hurt somebody's feelings. But when in fact, we got to start hurting people's fucking feelings. That's plain and simple. You know, we can't go off of feelings and emotions anymore. We just can't. It's going to be the death of us. And I think that's what we've seen in the last 5 years is that we're too worried about hurting people's feelings.
What do you see? Yeah, we can't worry about, you know, hurting people. That's how we got to the place we are. People, you know, wanting to be compassionate in a genuine sense. So they start allowing people to identify some way, even though they know it's wrong. You know, it's this fake sense of compassion when it's not always loving, you know, to lie or to pretend you're for something. It's actually loving sometimes to tell the truth, even when that's hard. So we definitely need more of that.
Yeah, again, people are too afraid to speak up because they don't want to get canceled, you know, and that goes for everybody. That goes for politicians, you know, that goes for everybody. Again, this country is based on hurting people's feelings. You know what I'm saying?
How do you? Yeah, totally. how do you want to be remembered? Because everyone is going to look their kids, their grandkids, their friends, family in the eyes. We're going
Right.
to look back 30 years from now. What did you do, Dad? What did you do, Uncle, Mom, when everybody was fighting over people mutilating innocent kids, over boys taking over girls' sports? What did you do during that great battle?
Right.
And you're going to have to say, well, I sat on my couch at home and, cried about it,
Right.
was too scared to lose my job. Or you're going to be able to say, look, I actually, spoke up and did something to fight for truth, for innocence, for love, for protecting kids. I mean, that's where we're at. We're in that moment right now. Every
Yep.
movie, it's like a Star Wars, Lord of the Rings moment. This is the great battle. Everyone watches those movies, pretends they'd be on the side of the good guys. Here's your chance to do something, be a part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's insane. I mean, I know comfortably that I can lay my head down in bed at night and know that I did not contribute to what's going on. I did not contribute to the physical, emotional, and hopefully not, but the medical abuse to my son. And I know that I stepped up and tried to help fathers and other kids in the long run, and in the short term, however you want to look at it. I know that I can sleep comfortably at night.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm gonna give it to you for anything you want to say to close us out. Any like last words of wisdom, message to Aidan, whatever, anything you
Yeah.
want to say. I'd
Um,
love to hear it.
One of the things, go check out me and Harrison's documentary on the Daily Wire, Identity Crisis. Very well done documentary, very eye opening. I want to speak directly to parents. I think it's time we bring back I end all my conversations with this. It's time to bring back the dinner table. When I was a kid, I always thought having to come home at 5 o'clock for dinner was dumb. I wanted to stay out and play with my friends. It was still light out. But now that I'm older, and as you can tell, a little bit wiser, um, that it was probably the best thing in the world. You know, um, you as parents will learn so much from your kid. You'll learn what's going on in school, who their bad influences are, who they like on TV, who they don't like on TV, who their friends are is more important. Put down the phones, turn the phones off, put the phones in a completely different room, spend a half hour to an hour. If you can do it 5 days a week, awesome. But set aside an hour a day to have dinner with your kids and just sit there and talk about their day. I learned so much about my brother. I learned so much about my parents, vice versa, that I look back at it now and I really feel that that was a truly amazing time in my life. Was sitting at the dinner table and talking to mom and dad and brother. Sorry, Jordan.
I love that, man. Bring back the dinner table,
Yeah.
put away the phones,
Yep.
save Aiden,
Save
and
Aidan.
be brave, everyone.
That's
The
right.
time is now. Well, thank you so much for coming on, man. It's awesome to do
Thanks,
a
brother.
podcast with you,
Yeah.
and you're just a great friend and a great dad.
So are you,
We're
brother.
gonna win this war.
Absolutely.